Hi, AT from CNC at Home. My niece had a birthday recently and I wanted to make something special for her. She likes a TV show called StarGate SG-1. I like the show, several people I know like the show. I thought that would make a good idea for some sort of gift. We do coasters a lot, and doing a coaster of the StarGate itself might be kind of fun. The StarGate's basically a big round donut, and in the show that essentially can transport them to another StarGate somewhere else in our galaxy. That is a great premise for a TV show. It allows them to go from Earth to some other place in the galaxy and then back. So, you know, the sky's the limit, literally, and the imagination of what they can do is pretty cool. Because she likes the show and I like the show, I thought a coaster would be kind of fun. So I did a coaster with the StarGate. It's just a big ring, it's got some symbols on it, and then the symbol for Earth I just put in the middle. I'll put that up here. And that turned out great. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to connect with my niece for her birthday, and I won't be able to see her for about another week or so at this point. That gave me some time to do something else. I thought it'd be fun to make a box. Now, normally I would do a set of coasters and a box that would hold 6 or 4 or some number of coasters. In this case, it's just one coaster. And that's pertinent to the show a little bit. I'm going to make a case. It looks kind of like a shipping or a packing crate that's kind of thin and then holds a coaster. The reason for this, there were several times in the TV show where they packed up the StarGate into a big crate.
Step away from the crate.
And so I'm going to make a crate that, it doesn't really look like that, but it's that kind of genre or that kind of homage to the big crate for the StarGate. As I was thinking about that, I could do some cross bracing and make it look like a crate and that sort of thing, you know, put maybe a picture of the StarGate on the front. And then I was thinking, like, no, don't put a picture, actually cut out a StarGate to put on the front. So use the same image that I used for the coaster and cut that out and stick it to the front. I thought that'd be cool. Then I thought, hey, what if I could put some tinfoil in the middle of it and make it look kind of shimmery? When the StarGate engages, it's basically looks like a vertical pool of water. There's waves and reflections and that sort of thing. And I thought tinfoil would look good. I also was able to get a hold of some transparent blue film from a friend of mine, and I put that on top of some tin foil and then put that behind the StarGate, glued that onto the front of the box. Turned out great. What I like to go do now is show you what I did in Lightburn for doing the coaster and for the box and for the StarGate on front of the box, and also burning the tile as well. And then we'll go through the laser, we'll do the burning. I used both lasers for this. I used the Atomstack P7 for the tile, and because the box that I was making for the crate was a little bit bigger than the travel for the Atomstack, I used the bigger LC-50 Plus for that. Worked out really well. Got all my side panels, front, top to the box. Made some little extra pieces, we'll see that, and got everything glued together. And other than the box fitting kind of tight, which isn't necessarily the best thing, I glued the sides together and then the top kind of sits really tightly on there, but so be it. Let's head over to Lightburn and see how that all shaped up. If you like this video, remember to give it a thumbs up. For the StarGate tile, the first thing we'll do is bring in the template. Let's zoom in on that. Now this template has two boxes. It's kind of hard to see that. This outer box is 109 millimeters square and represents the tile from tab to tab. There's small little tabs on each side of the tile for spacing them. The working area then is this inner rectangle, which is 107.75, which is approximately the size of the working area. What we're going to do first is bring in the image of the StarGate and do an edge trace. So let's go ahead and bring that in. Here's the image of the StarGate that I found. I'm going to right click on it and come down and select Trace Image. Full screen this so we can see it. It looks like it's doing a pretty good job at the default settings. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK. Note I do have the delete image after trace. What that will do then is do the edge trace and then get rid of the original image. Now we have a vector drawing that we can resize and put inside of our square. We know that our inner working area is just over 107 millimeters, so I'm going to make this 105 millimeters. And then as we move this towards the center, you should see it snap into place. There, just snapped into place. Anytime you drag an object with a center point and you get close to the center point of another object, it'll snap to that. Go ahead and zoom in on here again. This looks pretty good. The next thing I want to do is I want to put the home symbol for Earth in the middle of this. So let's get that brought in as well. And again, I can just bring this around and it should, if I can find the center, snap into place. The other way to do that, since I'm having trouble doing that, is once our image is highlit, let's put this on a different layer so we can see this. I'm going to go ahead and press down the Shift key and select the StarGate image. Then I can come up here and I can get this centered horizontally and centered vertically. And that's all there is to it. The next step is just to set our burn parameters. Since we're using a white tile, select the correct laser here. We're going to use the Atomstack P7. Zoomed back in. Go to our library, white tile, white paint, and we're going to use the fill for both of these layers. We'll go ahead and assign that. Like we're already set to those parameters. And for burning order, I'm going to swap these around so it'll burn our image inside the circle first, and then it'll burn the StarGate itself. Let's take a look at the preview. One thing that we can see is with the show travel turned on, you'll see this whole thing is filled in red. And the reason for that is that as it's doing the StarGate, when it gets about here, it's having to fill in all of that white space. And so the travel time from one side to the other takes kind of a long time, and it's not really doing anything during that time. I could merge this in there, and that would kind of help a little bit. The other option would be to essentially cut this StarGate image into more pieces and have it do each piece at a time so it wasn't having to travel all the way back and forth. It looks like we're at 43 minutes. So what we can do to cut that time down, I'm going to turn off our blue layer and our template and create a square that'll allow me to chop this up into some smaller bits here. We'll just create a square here. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's basically cut this thing in half. What we do is we select the StarGate, then press the Shift key and select our rectangle. And under Tools, we'll come down and say Cut Shape. And what that just did is it cut our StarGate in half. If we select over here, we'll see that We just have the that one half, and this is the other half. By doing that, when we go to our preview, it should look a little different. Before we do that, I'm going to go in and change my optimization, and then take a look at our preview. There. So we've knocked 10 minutes off the burn. You'll see that this middle area now is not all red like it was before. So as it's cutting this, it's doing smaller pieces at a time. We can optimize that some more even. Let's stop this. What we'll do is do this. Let's change this to group together. So we'll fill groups. See how that looks. Knocked off almost another 8 minutes or so off the burn. What this will do now is it'll burn this half of the image back and forth, and it'll come around and burn the other half. So we just optimized this enough so we went from 43 minutes down to 25 minutes. And we're getting the exact same burn. So that was worth the time. We'll go ahead and turn our other 2 layers back on so we can see the whole thing. This is ready to burn. We can go ahead and send it to the laser. I've gone into the site called Maker Case, and here what we'll do is we'll create our crate. First thing I'm going to do is switch into millimeters, and I'm going to give it inside dimensions. Our tile is 109 millimeters on the outside, so I'm going to call it 110, just to give it a little bit of room for the tile. And then we can shrink this down. Now let's swap this so it looks more like what we're going to do. 220 here and 110 here. There. This looks a little more like what we're going to be wanting to do. Now the type of box that I want to make uses the finger construction. We could also do T-slot, but that's not what I want. So we'll do the fingers, and we want to bring this down as small as we can. In experimenting with this particular website, the smallest it's going to let me go is 13 millimeters. Otherwise, it starts to have trouble with its calculation and the whole thing just disappears. And we can adjust our finger size a little bit here. We can either go 6 millimeter or we can go 6.341. Doesn't really matter. We do have 3 millimeters for a thickness. We could do an open box where it doesn't do a top, but we do want a top, so we'll leave that turned on. Once this is all done, then we just click on download, and we can download this as an SVG file. So this gives us an option to do SVG. We can have this where it says top, bottom, left, right, that sort of thing. So we'll go ahead and get that downloaded. Now I've brought that file into Lightburn, and you can see I've made some changes to that. To make this a little more efficient for what I want to do, I took these side pieces, rotated them around, and stuck them over on the side. I also moved them so that they were bumped into each other and they share an edge. That will save us a little bit of time during the burn. So here where they're sharing an edge, I have it set so that it won't cut twice here. It'll just cut the one time as it's going through that. I also have another layer over here, all these red things that are blinking. These are going to be decorations for the crate. So these long strips will get glued along the edges of the sides and the top and the bottom. And then the shorter ones will go in between horizontally. These short ones over here will go in between on the sides and the top and the bottom. These parts over here that have the nice pointy edges, what I'm going to do there is have this long piece go diagonally across, and then these two shorter ones will go diagonally the other way. I have those added in there as well. It's all set up with one burn. I have my burn parameters set to cut through the material, and I have it set to etch the home or the earth symbol on the front or the top cover. We can get that over to the laser and burn that as well. Let's take a look. So we'll loosen up the laser and we'll put our focusing block in here. Make sure that's sitting on there. We'll tighten it up. Pull that out. I want to just check a couple more spots. I'm going to bring over here. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. All right. And with this laser, we need to make sure to have our safety shield down when we do a homing on it. Otherwise, it can run into this front rail. Now let's do a frame again, make sure everything's where we want it to be. That looks good. Focused, air assist is on, go. For the front of our box, I want to actually have a StarGate cut out of wood that I put on there. What I've done is I brought in the image of the StarGate with the edge trace again, and I'm going to engrave that, so I have the parameters set for that. And then you'll see these two blue circles. I'll just shut off the StarGate for a second. What I did there was I just made a circle for the outside of the StarGate and the inside of the StarGate, and I set that to the line mode and the parameters for burning through the material. We look at these parameters. I'm at 300 millimeters per minute at 80% power, and I'm going to make 3 passes. because I'm using the craft plywood for this, sometimes I need that third path. It will go through in 2 passes. It's just sometimes the wood density, the grain structure, the glue, something interferes with that and it doesn't get quite through. By doing 3 passes, it usually gets through really well. To do these circles was relatively easy. I'll show you how I did that. Let me just delete them real quick and show you how I did that. The StarGate image itself is not a perfect circle. To do a circle, we just click on the circle tool, and by holding the shift key, it locks that in as a circle. So I just got something about the right size. This is definitely too small, but just to give you an idea of how this works. And then I can move this, manually and try and position it, or press the shift key, select our main object, and then align that horizontally and vertically. Now that it's in here, I can resize it. I'm going to make sure that I'm resizing from the middle, and I'll just increase the size until it gets close to all of the edges. Now, as you can see, at the top, it's a little bit closer than at the bottom. So our StarGate isn't a true circle. I'll make our circle just a little bit bigger. Then I will use the control key and the down arrow. Okay, and that moves it too much. And that's the smallest I can move it using the arrow keys. So what I will do is change the Y position about 0.5 millimeter, because the arrow key with the control key does 1 millimeter movement. So I'm going to change that to 345 instead of 845. So 0.5 millimeter down, press enter, and that gets it right where we want it to be. What I can do next then is right click, press duplicate, and then I can take that duplicate and start resizing it until it gets all the way to the outer edges of our StarGate. Looks like it's touching just a little bit down there, so I'm going to go 1% more bigger. There. That looks good. Now, these are currently set to a tool layer, so I'm going to highlight both of these, and I'm going to set them to my blue layer. And what it will do is I have it set so it'll burn or etch first, then it'll come back and it will burn these 2 circles, and then I'll have a nice little StarGate to glue on the front of our crate. Let's take a look at that burning. This seems to have turned out much better than I thought it was going to. We have the StarGate ring, which was cut out of wood, and this is just a piece of aluminum foil with a basically a transparent blue gel that is on top of it. This will just get glued on top like this. And that turned out really nicely, and this is the top for the box. I'll end up going on like that. That looks like a StarGate. I think the box turned out really nicely. The tile did as well. I hope my niece really enjoys this. I think she will. When I get to see her next, we'll see what she says when she opens up this present. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the content of our channel, think about subscribing and enjoy doing your CNC at home projects.